Shoe story for you. Tonight, it's a yellow one. A yellow suede wingtip from Original Penguin. I saw these back in 2012 on the Sierra Trading Post website, and I was immediately captivated by them. The color they named it was Citron. I think it's more of a sunflower yellow. They are just so super cool. And I waited and waited for these to get marked down far enough that I could afford them. And lo and behold, nobody else seemed to bite on them. They were waiting for me, and I was thrilled to get them. This is one of the first Wilder pair of shoes that I ever bought, and I'll always cherish these. I told somebody today, I wore them, that if I had to pick my top 10 favorite pairs of shoes, I think these would have to be one of them. Again, I don't wear them that often, but I really cherish them. I was amused to see earlier today that Larry David, the great comedic writer and the creator of Seinfeld and Curb Your Enthusiasm, did a public service announcement. And in true Larry David style, it was crabby and snarky. Larry David said that he wanted to talk to all the idiots who refused to social distance and who refused to stay at home. Pretty humorous, actually. If you know Larry David, you know that he's usually not soft and sweet, that there's usually an edge to most things that he says, doesn't mind being offensive. It's all over Curb Your Enthusiasm, all these great socially awkward situations in which he says offensive things and then just doubles down on them time after time. Anyway, it was perfect coming from Larry David and great humor for these days. I was thinking earlier today about that retreat that I mentioned to you on Sunday night, a retreat when I was in the seminary, a 5-day silent retreat. He had a great retreat master. I've shared some of the things that he told us along the way. We would meet for conferences a couple of times a day. We were all silent and we would just listen to him. He would give us some food for thought, and we would spend the rest of the day by ourselves in silence. One of the things he kept saying from the beginning to the end was, don't give up on this experience too soon. God may have a gift for you, and God may wait till the very end to give it to you. So be as faithful to this as you can. Be as faithful to the silence. Be as faithful to listening. Be as faithful to waiting and trusting and believing that God has something to say to you. Well, I had a great week, but I was waiting for that one big thing, and I have to say it never came until the last afternoon. I listened to this director's advice. I waited and I waited, and finally I was taking a walk around the lake at the seminary, and as I walked, I was just thinking about my life. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, came these words: there is nothing you can do that will ever change my love for you. There is nothing you can do that will ever change my love for you. Hearing God speak that directly, that clearly, uninvited, I wasn't thinking about any of that at all, but to hear it said so clearly and strongly, and to be spoken with such strength, it has affected me ever since. I've never doubted God's love for me from that moment on. As we're going through this journey, I think it has something to say to us, that experience I had at the retreat, that we have to be faithful to this. It's really difficult. It's not easy, but God may have a gift that God is offering to each of us, and we just have to wait for that gift in God's time. When God knows we're most ready to hear it, when God knows that we'll be listening, or that we might be, we might have our guard down, that might be when God wants to say it. So it's a good call to be as faithful to this experience of sheltering at home as we can be, to be as faithful to distance learning as we can be, to be as faithful to social distancing as we can be, I'm sure by now lots of us are getting practiced at it and getting better at it, but it's still a challenge. We all are missing one thing or another, or we're missing lots of people. Uh, but in this experience of simplicity and probably more quiet, and I would bet some boredom for some of us, God may have a gift to offer. So be as patient as you can, be as faithful as you can, and keep listening for what God has to say.